This is Blasphemous, released for consoles and PC in 2019, developed by The Game Kitchen and published, as you can see, by Team 17. It is a 2D Metroidvania heavily inspired by Spanish Catholic iconography. And I cannot stress this enough. It is very violent and very disturbing, but it's still a great game, and I'm quite excited to show it off. And joining me today are...
Precious Roy.
And your pal C. Jacobs. Hey, what's up? How you doing? I love this horrific video game. This is a grim video game, and I adore it. How about you, fellas? Any experience with Blasphemous?
I saw one speedrun once that I kind of half paid attention to, so I've got an idea of what's coming, but no full picture.
I don't remember if this was DLC, but these CRT filters are really bad. I would not recommend using them. There's exactly one spot later on where I'm going to use it just for effect. But for the most part, we will play with them off.
Well, this game's pixel art is gorgeous. You wouldn't want to override it with all kinds of shaders and stuff because they put so utterly much effort into it with the animation. You're deleting your saved game?
We need to get rid of that save file from 1 minute in. It was full of spoilers.
Time to start a new pilgrimage.
Oh, Anonymous.
That guy's quotes really vary. Sometimes they're insightful, other times they're terrorist threats.
Encyclopedia Dramatica seems to think they all come from Oscar Wilde for some reason.
Os reclamo, milagro doloroso. Haced que mi pecho se duela de arrepentimiento.
When this game launched, it originally only had an English voice track, but a Spanish one was added post-launch.
That's very cool.
A mi culpa.
Oh my god.
That guy's naked.
There's going to be a lot of nudity in this game, and it's not the sexy kind of nudity. Oh no.
Oh, it's the other kind.
And the rest of that happened too.
Yeah.
You know what? She probably doesn't need this anymore.
No.
Y así, la culpa, el arrepentimiento, el duelo y los demás dolores del alma se manifestaron de forma visible y tangible en todas partes y en todos nosotros.
Everything was manifested, everywhere, and all at once.
A veces en forma de bendición y gracia, y otras en forma de castigo.
So this is going to be one of those games that's all warm pastels and picking up coins and, bing bing wahoo, that sort of thing, right?
Oh yeah, this is fun for the whole family.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now I want you to pay attention in particular to this imagery of the twisted body around the pole. That is the closest equivalent to the cross, or to Jesus dying on the cross, that this world's theology has.
That's a lot of penitent ones. Someone stole all their clothes.
Well, I think they failed a spot check. They didn't grab this guy's clothes. So while this game is a 2D Metroidvania, it does have a couple of the mechanics that one would normally associate with Dark Souls. For example, this is our Estus flask. It is called a biliary or bile flask.
Okay.
Whose bile is it?
There are several possible answers to that, depending on how you interpret the lore, I suppose.
I'm glad to cram it into our mask holes. It seems pretty difficult to drink through that thing.
There's a juicer built in, it's all good.
Yeah, what if he's got like one of those soda drink hats where he's got beer cans on either side, but they're biliary flasks? That's why he got two. Okay, hang on. If you fall onto the helmets of your fellow brotherhood, do you die? Is that the first spike trap of the game? I heard this is like Souls.
Well, thankfully no, because this game has, layers of parallax scrolling, so he's not in the right layer. I mean, if he was in the background, he'd die.
It sure does have a lot of layering to it. Particle effects and set dressing and everything. It's a gorgeous video game.
Those red particle effects in particular, we'll want to remember those for a bit later in the LP.
Oh, I love it. I love how many things we're seeing that will be relevant later.
This is a prie-dieu, which in real life is like a little desk. In case you need to pray or to do something, but you just don't have a church around you. You can pray from home.
Or far away from home, as it were. It's like praying on the go. We should get one with wheels on it.
Exactly.
Well, it was carried by tormented babies, so I mean, we're probably good in that regard.
I guess that's true. There are people to carry it for you. That's kind of like wheels.
Yeah, our very first enemy of the game. This is not something like the Asylum Demon. You actually are expected to beat this boss immediately.
Oh, the bodies that just go flying everywhere.
Thankfully, it only has 2 attacks. Although its slam attack here, you see that purple trail. That does do damage, and you have to either slide underneath the Warden's legs or outrun it.
Well, your fellow Brotherhood sucked. They didn't know how to platform or anything like you. You're doing way better than they did. Maybe they didn't have a dodge roll.
Now, you don't understand. These are all the failed attempts in the background.
See, that, I see. So it's like a time loop kind of thing, where this is actually the Englishman's 100,000th time fighting this boss.
Right.
It took you a while to beat it, buddy. Good job, though.
Unfortunately, the best way to beat that boss is to put it into the corner. I'm gonna try not to do that with some of the other bosses with mixed results, let's say.
That's okay. You left enough of it on screen that our fellow is able to fill up his helmet flask. That.
Oh my god, it does have a juicer in it.
Huh.
Maybe this is why he's the only survivor, because his armor had a juicero built into it.
Yes!
He can survive on the blood of his enemies. You know what? That makes perfect sense. Good for him.
More or less literally what the lore says. Well, I guess I should stop talking about the lore so much just because there are a number of things that are deliberately left vague.
Oh, it's important to do, though, to let folks know that this isn't just a fun platforming game with Catholicism-inspired imagery. It's also got its own world and story and characters we're going to learn about. Like this guy, who is, seen better days.
I think he's the only guy in this village who can read.
Corazón sea penitente. El tormento del hermano mayor ha terminado. Soy Deo Gracias, testigo y relator de los hechos del milagro doloroso. Esa es mi...
So there are multiple factions within this religion. Each of them have a penance of some sort. The penitent one is part of the Brotherhood of the Silent Sorrow, so they cannot speak at all. This guy is part of the Storyteller faction.
Esta se encuentra en la madre de madres de las iglesias.
Wow.
How can you witness through that thing?
Separado del resto de estas
Very carefully.
por una gran puerta sagrada y prohibida.
I smell the hatred of man. I hear it burning in their hearts. Can't see it, though.
I taste it when I run my tongue over the ground.
Pero sí tengo en conocimiento que, según
Can't see for shit. Don't know if I've got this paper the right way up.
Well, that's the thing. The other side is written in Braille.
Oh!
Ha de hacerse en las altas montañas, cubiertas bajo gruesos mantos de nieve y hielo. Otra,
In traditional Metroidvania fashion, each of the various biomes have, distinct weather and visual style, etc. But it's actually much better than it sounds. There's real thought and care put into the atmosphere of each area.
It's a connected world, too, so there are slow transitions to those places.
Exactly. I'm thinking of that, like the edge of the snowy mountain area of Death Stranding, where it just very subtly goes from green grass to complete blizzard.
Yeah.
os sangra. Habiendo crecido, brotando más espinas de ella, retorciéndose por la figura del Padre, esculpida en el pomo.
Wait, he's still on there? He didn't disappear from the knob when the lady turned it into a sword? That's gonna be really awkward to swing.
And also the naked guy on the hilt is an effigy of a specific character.
You gotta hold it around this dude? I guess if you're holding the twisted naked guy close, then you will never feel too far from home.
Yeah, we've got our quest items here. Each item, whether it's quest items or spells or whatever, has an extra bit of backstory. Quite literally a lore button.
It's kind of fantastic. It's kind of fantastic that you can open it up for an entire paragraph. Everything in the game.
Yeah.
This is the only piece of lore that I'll be showing in the video, but I'll be posting the rest of the lore of things that we pick up in the thread.
It's worth doing because they do take the Catholic ideology and construct their own whole little functional, dysfunctional universe around it. If this seems like a ruined civilization, it actually only recently became that way. So that's some food for thought while you watch the rest of this video, given this gnarled wood we're entering. What if it was like this for a lot longer than we may think?
And this is our first enemy, the Enraged Pilgrim.
He was a toughie.
And our second enemy, called the Wheel Broken.
I feel like the breaking wheel as a concept led to those carnival games where you spin someone around while throwing knives or beanbags at them.
It's significantly less bloody, to be fair.
Well, wait, hang on. They actually did break free of their wheel. Wait, these guys are not doing the whole penance thing right.
Oh!
There you go, that'll show them.
So there is a parry and riposte system. You cannot block. You have to go into the parry stance.
I like the high risk, high reward of this. I just love the sheer variety of techniques that you have at any given moment. You can, for being two-dimensional, you'd think it'd be limited in what you can do at any given time, but nah, you can dodge into a parry and then riposte it, and you got all kinds of equipment items too.
So these are prayers. This is the equivalent of a magic spell. This is your standard long distance along the ground spell. Although these are not just prayers, they're actually songs. Each prayer is named after a different type of Spanish folk music. This is the Verdialis, which is a type of flamenco that is native to the province of Andalusia.
That's pretty rad that a flamenco is your first special move.
Yep. And if you press the lore button for that, you actually get the lyrics to the song.
That's pretty great.
Nice.
I just like the idea that, Catholicism is Spanish, so why not put in a Spanish flamenco? Maybe we'll get a tango next. When do we unlock the castanets?
Well, we unlock songs that castanets feature in. We don't get any musical instruments.
No bard class.
They went kind of nuts on this. They really did.
It's kind of crazy. It really is. You'd think going into this that it really would be a simple platformer, but it has so much depth to it. The idea that everyone's playthrough of Blasphemous will look very slightly different, because everyone's going to equip different special abilities.
Speaking of things that are different, this tutorial was added later, because this mechanic, the air impulse, was never properly taught in the original version of the game.
It sure wasn't.
Most people didn't know it existed.
I streamed this game at about the time it released, and since then it has changed a little bit to be more player-friendly. Before, it let you figure out quite a few of these things on your own, and that's okay because there aren't that many buttons. But when it's life or death for your poor penitent one, it'd be better to have a tutorial.
No hay respuesta a nuestra súplica. El milagro nos ha abandonado.
These cutscene mosaics are beautiful too.
Really good. I love large-scale pixel art.
Oh yeah.
I used to love the Capcom fighting games that had really huge sprites.
We will learn who that mysterious voice is eventually, but we don't know yet.
Oh.
So we went through the Holy Line. The map is separated into districts and then sub-areas within those districts. So, Brotherhood of the Silent Sorrow is actually one of the rare exceptions where the name of the district and the sub-area is the same. But we are in the suburbs. Not a lot of development going on, as you can see. But
it's stagnated a little bit. I'm going to say gentrification kind of kicked in and everybody moved out. Oh, or a plague hit. One of those two.
Yeah, this is reverse gentrification.
Bienvenido a la Villa del Albero, refugio de esta humilde cofradía, clamada de los besadores.
Whatever the god of this world is, hated those McMansions so much, he destroyed the whole world.
Bastirso es mi nombre. Somos pocos los que ya quedamos en el cuidado de los enfermos y dolientes. Con piadosos ósculos bendecimos las heridas del que pida nuestro amparo. Y así, a merced del milagro, quedamos los justos.
What was it, Francis of Assisi, who was the real-world equivalent of the Kisser of Wounds?
Extraño en atardeceres, que no nos es menester
I
contemplar.
believe so?
Pero si
Gonna go kiss all those lepers just to prove I won't get leprosy.
Tened la caridad de traernos algunos ingredientes para nuestros ungüentos. La voluntad en el milagro mostrará cuáles son.
I like that they're like, no obligation. They're like, hey, you're on your own path, but if you happen across soothing balm for flaming illness to the skin, it'd be nice.
And this is our first rosary bead.
Oh, these things.
They are extra things that you can add on to suit your playstyle. We could only equip 2 of them at the start, but eventually we could equip up to 8.
Presumably, our penitent one has had his rosary thing for a very long time, and the beads have just kind of come off it over the years. He's like, you know what, I gotta find new beads for this thing. Maybe they'll give me the ability to double jump.
I think it might have had something to do with the bunch of bodies that we woke up to.
Potentially, yeah.
They might have
potentially.
stolen the rest of our bead knots.
En este lugar reunimos los vestigios de todo aquel que fue separado y olvidado, y así poder darle santa sepultura, tal como ordena nuestra caritativa regla.
The bloodborne trope of talking to somebody at the window.
You're not allowed to see what they look like until you gain their trust, at which point they'll probably be horrifically murdered.
I refuse to open the doors to my church until you've beaten at least one boss.
That is actually perfectly acceptable in this world. Sure, prove your strength. And also that you'll help us, with this whole miracle business. What a miracle it is!
And if you find any phalanges in the middle of your journey, we could always pawn those off for money or something. This is another collectible that is tied to a specific optional boss, which I will not be doing on this playthrough specifically. There are going to be 3 playthroughs. I talked back at Epic Mickey about how you needed 3 playthroughs to get 100%. But because, messing around with save files on the Wii was really annoying, but because of playing this on PC, it's a lot easier to, copy and back up save files.
Can I say this doesn't seem to have a lot in common with Epic Mickey? But I get that the principle is the same. Epic Mickey also had a New Game Plus you had to go through.
This is definitely far more brutal than Epic Mickey.
Is it? I don't know. I feel like that was what Epic Mickey's whole premise was, where it was like, what if Mickey Mouse got dark?
This is an entire game out of that one sequence where we launched Gremlin Calvin into space.
Yeah. The Epic Mickey is what if Mickey got dark. Blasphemous is what if Catholicism got darker.
You'd think it wouldn't be possible. But they managed it. And this enemy These ladies right here. Oh. Oh.
The thing is, I am so...
Oh my god!
Having put in about 100 hours into this game now, between my first playthrough and all the stuff I've done for this Let's Play, I have become so desensitized to these execution animations that it's, you know, it's good to have you along to see, like, the visceral reaction that one has to actually, you know, seeing one of them for the first time.
Oh, Roy and I are probably mimicking the audience's reaction to these because they're so over the top. They remind me of Metal Slug and other, like, games where you shoot a guy and, like, red pixels just explode out of him. It's crazy just how many death animations there are for the enemies. They put a lot of effort into that.
Even if you opt out of the animations, just like the regular death animations instead of the execution ones are still pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And I truly enjoy it because it kind of emphasizes that this is a really grotesque world, whether you're the hero or the villain, you know? Like, I kind of feel bad that I'm doing that to these random great shield wielding crazy people. What are they? Are they devout?
They are. There's, well, the thing is that part of the lore is that goes unexplained is exactly where these enemies come from. We have seen multiple references to someone or something called the Miracle, which is the central basis for the theology of this world. This world is called Custodia, that is spelled with a V instead of a U.
Very metal. I like it. And I totally understand that then, that indeed these folks have either seen the light of the miracle or the light of the miracle has seen them, one or the other. And it's really wonderful how the game just lets you wonder about that, where it's like, who exactly is the, shall we say, good faction here? And the answer is it's religion, so nobody.
Valid.
The other thing, though, is what is the miracle? It seems to be an abstract concept. As we will see throughout the rest of this game, something is happening to Custodia and its residents.
Well, the sky didn't turn apocalyptically orange just for fun.
Well, the main assumption that our religion goes on, aside from, you know, dying over bottomless pits, is that...
ring out!
Yep.
Wow! Yeah!
Exemplaris excommunicationis.
They just interrupted our discussion with a death like that. Holy hell! Thanks for the sword, kid!
Very unforgiving.
Unfortunately, there was a tutorial that got in the way there, but if you look at the top left, the main consequence for dying in this game is not the removal of your souls or Tears of Atonement. It is temporarily restricting your magic bar.
And that can honestly hurt you more, especially when there's an enemy across a gap and you want to use your cool gap crossing technique. You can't anymore.
Exactly. And there is something called a guilt fragment that is left on the map at the spot you last died, and that is the way to restore your magic meter.
I love the little thorns that are growing around our magic meter now. It's like a visual representation of our helmet. I really love our dome. I love that we're not actually very tall, but our helmet gives us a lot of stature. You want to talk about our helmet, or you want to save that?
We'll save it for later, but the thorn imagery is definitely a recurring motif. It is very deliberate. If you remember, Dea Gracias gave us a thorn to attach to the Penitent One's sword, which is called the Mea Culpa. For those who don't know their Latin, that is literally my burden or my fault.
Hermana mía, como os anuncié, alguien se dirige a la puerta prohibida. Alguien que busca la purga y la excomunión de todo lo sagrado que allí descansa. No poséis vuestras dudas sobre mí. Estoy preparado.
I wonder who that guy is. I'm sure he's not important to the plot.
That is an absolutely baller weapon that they are wielding. The bell on the end of a naginata pole. Hell
It
yeah.
sure would suck to have to face him in a boss fight with that weapon.
It'd give you a heck of a headache.
I have no idea what that statue is, so might as well just ignore it for now. It looks scary.
That's... You know what? It is funny how you walk into the room with the blasphemous equivalent of a Chozo statue from Metroid, and you're like, you know, because it is so intimidatingly sprited, I'm going to wait till the next altar to interact with that. I really love that that's a real, almost facet of this game where it's like, hold on, that looks really scary. Let me go save first.
Yeah. Shit, I better not touch that.
So the drinking game of Epic Mickey was dialogue that was one word too long to fit onto a text box. The drinking game of Blasphemous, meanwhile, is whenever you see me confidently walking up to a wall, expecting to break it to find an invisible path, and then nothing happens.
It's Castlevania. It's your Castlevania instinct. You're looking for wall chicken. Whoa! Oh, that's a great way to let the player know that there are such secret walls by putting a destructible object right next to one. What? Why are we assembling an entire hand?
So those who are familiar with Christian doctrine may remember that occasionally, perhaps mostly for Catholicism, though I'm not entirely sure, that there are you can consecrate or otherwise collect body parts belonging to saints. And this is the equivalent of that in this universe.
I do like that we will eventually be able to create an entire, science class human anatomy skeleton out of the saints in this world that have perished horribly. Maybe that says something about the nature of this world, that all the saints in it are dead and bones.
Well, the bone that we just picked up was a maxilla. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is the upper jaw bone.
Not part of a hand, but you could make it one if you whittled a little bit.
Well, we picked up a phalanx earlier, which could be bones in either the hands or the feet.
So it's gonna be a bit of a Frankenstein's monster, whatever we
Yes.
end up making in the end. I hope the people inside the church are happy to receive their bones. In the big giant treasure chest and or burlap sack we will deliver them in. Our fella is on a journey of his own.
Are the bones like a replacement for communion wafers?
Okay.
Oh, please let them be.
There would be pretty
Feast
limited
on the
supply if
bones.
that were the case.
All right, but I do like the idea of them all sitting in church gnawing on bones like dogs. This is the toe knuckle of Christ.
Yeah, the bones represent the the bones represent the body of Christ. Or sorry,
In
the
a
bread
more
of Christ.
literal sense.
Yeah. I was trying to make a dumb joke and then just, completely fell down the stairs. That's how my comedy tends to go in these Let's Plays.
It's actually perfectly fine. It happens to the best of us, and by that I mean, of course, myself, known for never screwing up a sentence halfway through and needing to start over.
Also, can we just acknowledge that one of the enemies that we fought was a flagellant that uses their, I forget what it's called, but that uses their flagellant tools as nunchucks, effectively.
It's some action movie stuff. I love it. Yeah.
And this is the Seguiria to your eyes like stars. I just realized I probably butchered that pronunciation as well.
Seguiría.
Please be patient with me. I'm a North American Jew. I don't really know these things. But
Seguiría.
is another type of flamenco, specifically a cante hondo type, native to Andalusia. There's a lot of Andalusian things, specifically when it comes to the music.
I kind of want to hear one.
Timing.
If I could get away with it from a copyright perspective, I'm hoping that, similar to how I ended each Epic Mickey video with some music from Disney video games, I'm hoping I can end it with like a 15-20 second example of each of the different song types that the prayers are named after. We'll have to see if that works.
I love the random fella who is a difficult enemy for the penitent one because he's hovering in a chair. Like, he's hovering, and that makes him difficult to fight. They're really using the fact that this is a two-dimensional game to its fullest extent.
Yeah, and forcing you to air juggle for a character who works best on the ground.
That's really fun. It's because it could have been quite basic hack and slash, but the jumping attacks, the falling attacks, and the fact that you rise in the air after an air attack, those all add little wrinkles that they can challenge you on when you don't find wall chicken to heal you when you need it. You're in dire straits here, mi amigo.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you're right. I had to edit out a death there, mostly because of these two wraiths, who ambush you out of nowhere, and this is like right before the boss fight too.
Absolute nonsense. What you did was you did not die. You went back to the shrine.
That's
Never
right.
admit to goons that you died in a video game. Never.
Oh, we got a new character here.
Milagros te amo, penitente. Que no es extraño encontrar a esta
I prefer the main character's Spanish name of Penitente instead of the penitent one. It feels more singular when it's just one word.
We're standing inside the penitente. This is a nice tent she's got here.
For 2 seconds, I thought she was a giant bulbous talking head. I didn't realize she had a pot on her back. Or a sack.
Squid woman.
There are a lot of details to the enemy designs especially that I never realized after playing 100 hours, but only when looking at their sprites in the fandom wiki.
There's just so much little detail crammed into every pixel. It's nice to play this on like a 1440p monitor all the way blown up. Then you can see them.
I mean, I've tried, upscaling, going 4K on my monitor. I didn't notice that much of a difference in detail, but it still looks great. Also, where have we seen the Chamber of the Eldest Brother before? I wonder. Do you remember?
It lurks deep inside my memory, if that counts.
Well, I'm sure it'll be fine regardless.
All the little background things that are moving and swinging really reminds me of old LucasArts Click Adventures.
It does have that kind of
charm to it, yeah.
Yeah, charm, a vibe to its environment where everything is hand-painted, but none of it is static. It's all moving and alive. Speaking of alive...
The Hollow Pearl is a pretty useful rosary to have in this stage of the game, especially on your first run. Now, apparently, the particular method of speech that Candelaria uses is supposed to be a reference to a Spanish singer named Lola Flores. Unfortunately, there aren't enough English language resources for me to figure out exactly what it is, so I'm just going to take fandom's word on this. If there are any Spanish goons who are following the thread, perhaps you could have a better explanation. It's something about the lyrics of her songs or something like that.
Fascinating. I like that this game's got layers to its translation and also writing that you have to kind of dig a little to understand, kind of. Again, it's not like the literal stories from Catholicism represented as a video game. It's more like it's inspired by the themes that those stories contain. And so they, have manners of speech and other actual historical, points, but they use those to, I don't know, draft unique weirdos that I want to learn more about. I want to buy all of her stuff so she tells me more about herself.
Yeah. It's still pretty weird, though, that despite being so heavily influenced by Spanish culture, it was still written in English first and voiced in English, with a Spanish script and dubbing added later on as DLC.
That is fascinating, but it's funny, that's actually how the Souls games also operate. The Souls games themselves, which I guess this is influenced by, they don't have any Japanese voiceover at all. All of their dialogue is recorded in English, even in the Japanese version of the game. And instead they do Japanese text.
They don't have English writers, they just write the script in Japanese, then translate it and have the actor's voice stuff.
Yep, and it's the most fascinating process because they could just have Japanese voice acting done first, but they decide not to for some reason. They decide to never do it.
And you did probably notice a bit of jank there, like for example, the Veridialis kind of went through one of those enemies there. I believe those are the acolytes. There's a lot of weirdly odd things about the combat, which are, you know, I would call it too polished to be jank, but not good enough to be like a deliberate design choice.
There are some times when your attack might go through an enemy because of the pixelation of it all, I suppose I'd call it.
Yeah, the hitboxes can be kind of weird, particularly with the parry. I think we've seen it once or twice already, where the parry animation glitched out on an enemy, and they just sort of froze in place for a bit, and nothing really happened.
Beyond brutal difficulty, does the combat ever feel unfairly jank or like it's cheating you out of something? You know, that sort of the litmus test of, you know, I screwed up versus the game screwed up?
Not usually, but it's pretty annoying when it shows up. Also, that path there, I actually don't have the item I need to get over there, so... Oh, hey, new character.
Guess we'll explore later.
De un lugar de bendiciones se me encomienda velar por vos, penitente.
I really like this character because of how it subverts player expectations and how they interact with game design and various mechanics.
Si os es menester, pero solo vos debéis decidirlo. Penitente en el silencio. Necesitaréis mi favor en vuestro siguiente cometido.
So Veridiana was sent here to help you, and she wants to help you. But your gamer brain might say, no, I don't want to help on a boss fight. I'm a big boy, I could do it by myself.
And then she is gone, so you don't get to change your mind.
And in fact, there is a specific reward where you can get it earlier, and there's an achievement tied to it if you accept her help whenever you can. There is a consequence, but, well, it may not be a negative consequence depending on how you interpret her motivation.
The most fascinating thing, usually you are always encouraged to summon help without really any downside, or a change after the summoning of the help.
And here's our first proper boss fight.
Oh,
wait.
What the fresh hell? Oh!
So, this
okay.
is Ten Piedad. He is part goat, part tree, part human. His name literally means have mercy in Spanish.
I'm gonna say that Dad is a little upset. We woke him up from his nap early. We walked into the room and he was just passed out on the sofa with a beer, and he woke up with a temper.
He went out to get some cigarettes and then just fell asleep in that lady's arms over there.
I do like that he looks like he's essentially made out of the thorns that so deride us when we die. This is essentially the representation of death. It's even got like a horrible goat skull for a head.
And when you met it, it was imitating Michelangelo's Pieta, which is one of the most famous death poses in all of classical art.
Oh hey, she's here!
Yep, so because we accepted Veridiana's help, when we're down to, I think it's 20% health, then Veridiana will warm up a healing spell for you that takes about 10 seconds, maybe 15. But it will get canceled out if you try to heal yourself at the same time.
It's very cool because it keeps you from wasting her health. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there's no limit to her health. It's a binary on-off. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but have a look over here when I use the Verdialis. It decelerates towards the end of its trail, and it actually hits more often towards the end of the spell.
There's so much you can do. There's so much little tech to slaying these horrible eldritch monsters. Oh, that was once a man.
All the little minute details. Oh my god.
Yeah, I have decided to split up this first playthrough by ending on each boss, with a couple of exceptions. So, given that this game can be a huge downer at certain points, I feel like it was probably just best to end each video on a high note, even if that's not necessarily indicative of the tone going so far.
Yeah, and end on at least a moral victory because you depleted that health bar.
Yep.
Oh man, I think ending on Roy being disgusted with the animations is a good way to. That's a good way to end that one.
Oh my god, they're so good though.
Yeah,
There's so much detail in this.
What's really weird is that most of those execution animations were added later in free updates.
Wild. That's wild.
Yeah. Which is kind of weird. Blasphemous 2 is currently in that state as well, where there aren't that many execution animations, and it's been like 5 or 6 months since that game came out. But, I keep wanting to go back to Blasphemous 2. I want to give it a chance. It is better as a video game in every way that counts, but there's something about the atmosphere of Blasphemous 2 that just isn't clicking with me. And, I'm not going to give up on it. But I want to give it that chance. I want it to impress me in the same way that the first game does.
Yeah. And they're going to lean hard into this.
Yeah.
So hard.
And sometimes even when, the real stuff does show up, it's often in a very different context. You might notice there is no real, Holy Trinity aspect to the religion of this world. Instead, we have a force that people do not understand. And there are some assumptions being made that all of the weird shit that is happening in Custodia is connected. And we have no evidence for this beyond it being a spurious correlation of weird events that seem to happen at random times. Well, we don't know that for sure. Yeah, it could just be a series of very unfortunate coincidences, but there's no evidence for that. And in that way, I guess it's much more like a Jewish or even Muslim idea of God as the force of nature, as opposed to being a physical being who brought his only son down to save us from mankind. Or to save this sins. Fuck. Okay, might as well end the video there on my complete butchering of Christian theology. It seems.
Oh my god, these
brand.
conversations are gonna get good.
This is all staying in, by the way.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna keep adding this in without your side of the conversation. It's gonna be even weirder. And I'll add some text explaining what's going on